In our last video, in this sequence of videos, I mentioned my grandmother's insane patterns of jealousy, and I didn't really get to mention the fact that her son, my father's brother, so my uncle, he in effect destroyed his first marriage because of his problems with jealousy. So he got married fairly young. I think he was 20 years old or something like that, to a pretty blonde woman, and in reality things were going well, but he imagined that because she was beautiful, other men were going to seduce her, and that she was going to go out on him. And even though she never did anything of the sort, his problems with jealousy and the way he behaved in dealing with his feelings of jealousy destroyed their marriage, and they got divorced. And he's had a pretty sad life since then, to be honest. He's a really troubled person. And I think there is a certain extent to which some of these patterns of behavior are maybe just based off of the family dynamics that have gone on through generations, or potentially there is some genetic component to it. I don't know. So, but the point is, we really can't change what we're exposed to as children, but we can change how we behave, how we react to what we see. We can change our abilities as life goes on. And the number one thing is to be aware of what the problems actually are. Be aware of what it is that you're doing to somebody else. And I think in a lot of people, this is the hardest part, and even me. Part of what I was saying in the last video is that this is a selfish topic, and I can be a very selfish person. I mean, that is the main problem with this. The main problem is not thinking of the other person in a relationship, not thinking of another person in general, because this whole problem is because I'm not thinking of the other person. I'm not thinking of the other person's life, what they've been through. Not thinking that everyone has been through struggles that are individual to what you go through in life. I think
what's paradoxical there, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think exactly what that's paradoxical is, you're not thinking of the other person sympathetically. You're not thinking of them as a real person. But you are obsessing over them. You are in a sense thinking about them. That's what I think is paradoxical. And I think that's even true of how you think about me a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or you think of me in a really strange, dehumanized way.
It's true. Yeah. And I don't think of you as... And yeah, I did want to mention that in this video in particular, as I was walking home, I was thinking of what I wanted to say in this video, or just in this sequence of you and me talking about these problems, is that I think a lot of people misinterpret the content of your channel as being just criticism of other people.
Yeah.
And of course, some of your channel is joking around and satire. I mean, you mentioned this that some of your videos are just about being humorous. But a lot of them are really about helping other people, and people have a hard time interpreting what you really believe, and what I believe is trying to help other people and help the vegan movement, or whatever issue that you are concerned about, whether it's First Nations, whether it's about language learning, whether it's about humanitarian work.
At least one video was directly responding to someone who was going to commit suicide.
Right?
You remember that? So.
Yeah.
I know. Sometimes it's like totally intellectual people asking for advice for what should they major in university and what should they do for their research for their thesis. Like sometimes it is that dry.
Yeah.
But at the opposite extreme, sometimes it's completely emotional. It's someone.
Yeah. Some of them are completely about an individual, like one person.
Right.
One person's experience, and I know that is what motivates you in life, is to, and that's why I find you so appealing, because I really know that you do think of other people, and you do think of other people's perspectives and what they've been through. And I mean, maybe that's the secret, that that's why you don't feel jealousy, is because you imagine what other people have been through, and you don't envy. You don't feel like I want that, or like you know I
think it's actually funny because it relates to something else we've been talking about lately. I haven't had time to make a video about this, but relating to authority figures. So this is also an issue for you. So it's not considered jealousy, but maybe on a deep level in terms of the course thoughts, it is actually similar. But you know, something I said on this channel many times was, for me, a breakthrough in life was learning to regard all authority as mere authorship. Like, you know, like, here's this book everyone respects. Okay, well, this book was the work of one man sitting at a desk. You think sympathetically about the process of the creation of knowledge, or whatever you want to say, the research that went into it, or, you know, some books, it's just someone writing their thoughts and feelings. A lot of philosophy is like that, and so on, you know. A lot of religion is almost entirely like that. It's one guy in a cave writing about his hallucinations or something, you know. So, you know, of really humanizing the role of the author, then relating to authority that way. And it's literally true. That extends to when I'm being interrogated by Canadian government officials, which happened a couple weeks ago, and I'm able to kind of sit there and smile and even laugh through it. You know, it's not egomania on my part. I understand that people would see it that way. But, you know, I look at these people as people. To me, they're normal people. You know, I'm humanizing them in that same way. And I think that's true. If I look at an Instagram model, or I look at whatever, a beautiful person on Instagram, you know, I don't relate to them as an idol or as an authority. You know, I kind of see the humanity and the human process behind it. And I even, you know, I'm aware of, even if I'm not consciously, I'm aware of how awful it would be to have my career and my income rely on maintaining myself in that kind of peak physical condition and stuff. Like, just to give an example of the kind of stuff. You know? Yes,
absolutely.
If I see someone who's excellent at playing the guitar, you know I know I don't want to spend hundreds of hours practicing the guitar, and so on. But, you know, for me, it's a check to jealousy, but it also puts a limit on how much I can be intimidated by an authority figure. So
I thought that was interesting when you mentioned in one of the videos that you don't think I'm the best musician, and that did not bother me at all.
Right.
And I think it could be because I've had so many hours of my life dedicated to music, dedicated to practicing violin, practicing guitar. Yeah, I'm not good.
I know.
I've spent many hours and I'm not good. Like, you know, especially now because I've been out of practice. You know, and I'm about to face that as I get back into playing music, realizing how much I've lost and how much is going to be gained, how much time it's going to be required in order to get back to the level that I was at. I
think that shows also it's not strictly about sex, because I could be seduced by someone because they're a better musician than you. I could be seduced by someone because they're a great singer or a great guitarist. I mean, you know,
it's true.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. No, and I don't think it is all about sex. It's not. Yeah. So anyway, that wasn't on my list of things.
I think this is great, though. I mean, I don't know. Okay, you got a whole list, all right?
Yeah. So in tandem with that is that actually imagining somebody else's life, really sympathizing with them, is being happy for somebody else, which you've mentioned.
Right. You're not good at that.
I'm not good at that. And I have to reflect on that and say, like, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with what led to me being in this position? And, you know, I try to think of my parents ever genuinely being happy for someone else. And
I've spent enough time with your parents to know, you didn't grow up in that kind of household or culture or microculture.
They're not positive with other people.
Yeah.
It's really, life is a competition for them in every way. And I saw that having a destructive effect on them. So
I don't think they were happy for me. So I normally would never watch a game show on TV. When I watched the TV game show Jeopardy with them, I knew the answers to a lot more questions that they were not happy for me.
No, that's such a simple example, but that's so
and that
true.
Isn't even on like a conscious level. Like, I think consciously they're happy that their daughter is with someone who's intelligent.
Yeah.
But, you know, no, on a level of feeling or reaction. It's not,
right. And it is interesting.
Being happy for someone else doing well.
Because they did encourage me, of course, to excel in school and to excel in playing music. And for them, it was a source of joy, of pride. and in fact, I was fighting for that as I was growing up, to try to impress them and to try to, compete with others and be better than other people. That was a real driving force in how I grew up. And I have to recognize that that's not something that is going to contribute to having positive relations with other people. You can have friendly competition with people, and it doesn't have to be a source of stress or anger or anyway.
I know, and this is look, you're dealing with it at 26. I do think there are people who deal with it at 36 and so on. No, I mean, sadly, people grow up when they want to grow up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah,
look, I think this is a great video so far. I just don't like I don't want you to screw it up, but great.
Well,
okay.
that's a huge thing, just actually being happy for other people.
Yeah.
And even in the context of sexual relationships, that is the number one thing that, like, when you were first talking to me about the concept of an open relationship, I didn't think of it in terms of, like, you being happy, like helping you have a happy life, or like bringing joy into your life, which sex does. I mean, I'm not saying it always. There are going to be really weird, messed up sexual instances, circumstances. But for you, that is a source of joy. Like, the act for you of showing that, like, that you're good at having sex, like, that's something that is a source of pride for you. And that's, like, I don't know why I couldn't see it in that way, but like, when you were first introducing the topic to me, I really just thought of it as like, oh, he's, I don't know, like, why can't he be satisfied with just me? And that really wasn't the point. The point is to, like, make both of us happy. Anyway.
Well, you remember too, though. I mean, I don't actually think of it in terms of happiness. I don't.
I'm
just saying, it's not that I disagree.
I wish there was a better. I wish there was a better concept.
It's not that I disagree with what you're saying, but it's just interesting to know I wouldn't express that in those terms. I would say something similar, but using a very different train of thought and different vocabulary. But, we've had some comments lately saying that you speak the same way I do. You really don't. Anyway, not to But you remember one of the main things I said to you was, look, so at that time I was 37 or something, whatever I was.
Yeah.
But I was like, look, I'm 37. It actually is not a big deal for me to be monogamous for the rest of my life. But actually the person here who really stands to lose is you. Like, actually for you to never sleep with anyone else the rest of your life, that's actually really unfair. And we're going into this as unequals. Like, I have more experience and more diversity of experience, whatever. Yeah. So, like, don't kid yourself. So, but I just say that wasn't really about, I mean, look, okay, ultimately is everything about happiness. Did I put on this shirt this morning to be happy? You can express things in terms of happiness. But, I remember, and for you, that was really alien, was thinking about, monogamy, whatever you want to say, in terms of sacrifice. It's like, look, you're the one making the sacrifice here, not me. I'm already old and ugly, and I already have, more diversity of experience. But, like, really think through what that would mean, for you. And
yeah, exactly. And you, even at the start, you were thinking of, like, my perspective on it, and I wasn't thinking of your perspective on it. And I mean, it's true. Not. I was just gonna say, like, I mean, I wish there was a better word for it. I'm not saying, like, happiness, but, like, I really like your concept. It's that, part of human relations, sex is about finding a community, making a community, or, like, finding people who are going to be your tribe. And that's just
people who will visit you in the hospital when you're sick.
People who will care if you're sick and dying.
It's real easy to say that someone's your friend.
Yeah.
Would they show up if you were in the hospital?
So true.
For most of us, for only people who are in love with us would do that. For most of us,
only people who are in love with us, or out of some, like, feeling of obligation because they're your family members, because their bloodline is the same as you. You have to show up. I mean,
in our culture especially, it's real narrow.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to me, I hadn't thought of it that way, especially, like, since spending time taking care of your daughter, how important it is to have other people who are helping you raise children. And that is a vital, like, I find it, like, to bring so, like, I'm not saying happiness, but I'm just saying, like, contentedness to actually teach a child, like, child, there's a lot of struggling with raising children, but it's also like something that's really enriching to somebody's life. If you have help, if you have other people helping you. If you do it by yourself and you're 100% only focused on, it's look, really tough.
So look, you know, jealousy is not just about sex. It's also about intellectual endeavors and people buying expensive cars and other things.
Yeah.
We're not so much interested in that here, but I just mentioned, I do have a lot of experience with intellectual friendships and intellectual colleagues. And it's really sad that, through like a purely intellectual pursuit of something like linguistics or, Buddhist history, you don't meet people and you don't make friendships of a type where you'd help each other. Like, admittedly, helping someone raise their kid, high standard, but like just helping them get their laundry from the dry clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, who's gonna actually
right? But like a helpful, caring friendship where you actually help each other. Yeah. You almost never get there through intellectual colleagues and friendships in our culture, which is of course very sad.
Yeah.
So I just say that's another thing where it puts all the weight of that really just on the one person who's in love with you.
Yeah.
So and if you got two people, well, that's that's exponentially more. So yeah. I think that's part of the bleakness of being a grown up in Western culture.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've said to me that people only contact women, members of the opposite sex, will probably usually only contact you if they like think you're attractive, even if it's for like, or even if like they like you. Even if they say it's for intellectual reasons, it's because they like you. And I mean, for me, that was like, I have to admit that's true. I mean, like even when I first got in contact with you, and it wasn't sexually at all. Like it was
covertly sexual when you first contacted me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But that's just true. Okay, so, but yeah, I mean that or intellectual reasons for somebody getting in contact with you. It's usually not people wanting to be your friend, not wanting to.
Yeah, that's yes. Yeah, no, it's because you're saying things very similar to what I'd say, but they're still kind of shocking and new for me to hear. It's true.
Yeah.
Friendship is kind of more scarce.
Yeah, it is. So, and of course, I mean, I really enjoy the act of sex, so it's like, it seems like it would be something that I would be open to realizing that it doesn't have to just be you and me for the rest of our lives, that's how that like, the situation is with most people, and it's like, don't you? I mean, just be honest. I mean, be honest. It's the same person over and over again. I love it. I mean, I love you.
Yeah, we'll give it 10 years.
I know.
No, that's true. What? It's our second anniversary coming up, though.
Yeah.
And again, like, I think that's even in kind of economics more than political philosophy. The idea that, you can be deprived of something without even knowing that you're being deprived of it. Like, actually, a good example is educational opportunities. Like, you didn't know there was a scholarship, so you could become a dentist. And now instead, for a lot of people, being ignorant of or not being informed of opportunities that other people were informed of or something, it shapes your life in a powerful way. But that's the thing is, though, you don't suffer directly from being deprived of those things. But nevertheless, there's a real measurable significance to that.
Right. That's true. It's true. It's all true. Okay, so, all right, this may not be following the sequence that I had initially intended, but, yeah, I really liked what you've said lately about how can somebody enjoy gardening when their house is on fire, and somebody would walk by their neighbor and say, hey, your house is on fire. I really think the solution is to actively every day make the effort to imagine someone else's perspective. And it's not it's not easy, and
well, look, hey, just to put it in a practical reference, Vegan Gains kept sending me hate mail. Yeah. Insulting me, saying oh, you're too busy helping Syrian refugees and stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, since then I actually had a long Skype call with that guy who is involved with Syrian refugees.
That's right, you did.
I was just eyeing him the other day. But, you see how threatening that is to him, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to having, an attitude towards life in the world where it's look, I'm aware Somebody's house is on fire.
Yeah.
There's something. It really puts your pleasures in life, whether they're petty or profound, in a very different frame of reference. It puts the number of years you have left on this earth in a very different perspective. Right?
It's true, and I think,
and you could see Vegan Gains is rattled by that, whereas for me, that's what I'm comfortable with.
When you first were recording that, what I thought of is, I guess, a trope that I've seen since I was young, that think of walking a mile in like a homeless person's shoes. For me, I think it, just because I've thought about it more, that is less alien than actually thinking of like beautiful people who you walk by in the street. Like actually thinking of walking in a mile in their shoes.
You know what? I think that's really a good point, is that it's actually very easy to imagine deprivation.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to imagine, it's easy to imagine not having a sandwich when you know what it's like to have a sandwich. But it's very hard to imagine, even if you're trying to sympathize with, privilege and power and having options and opportunities. You can't imagine.
Yeah.
And in a sense, I mean, I've spent so much time inside elite PhD programs that I really know what I'm missing. I know how, and I know how little I'm missing, whatever you want to say. Like, I'm not, I'm not here complaining. But for most people, like, I remember one kid, and actually his parents were literally Syrian refugees, complete coincidence. I just knew him as a friend. I didn't know him for that reason. But his parents were Syrian refugees who came to Canada, and he was basically completely raised in Canada. He'd gone back to visit, but, and the way he talked about university, it was just surreal to me. Like, I was in university at the time, and I talked to this guy. It's like, you really think it's the Playboy Mansion. And, like, even the Playboy Mansion is not the Playboy Mansion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the representation of the Playboy Mansion in a movie is obviously, like, a candy-coated, ridiculous... It's like, wow, like you really have no idea how depressing it is, the actual process of going to the bookstore and having this little list and finding the book and going to, like, I'm just saying, like, Melissa, you already know exactly what it's like, just how lonely and isolated and depressing it is. And you think of this as this wonderful educational opportunity. So just say, he can't imagine it, when I was having that conversation with him. That's a really good point, that maybe it's harder to relate to someone, sympathetically or not, who's beautiful, wealthy. How do you relate to Kim Kardashian or whatever? Because that's something you can't know, whereas you know what it's like to go hungry for a day.
Right. Yeah. And for you, like, my interactions with you, why, like, I think of you as, like, a genius, and I think you are like, to me, like, a handsome genius, and I know you've struggled in life. Sometimes, like, no, like, and I think that's amazing, like, even that, like, you basically, like, inflicted the struggle on yourself too, because I can think of, like, other ways with your life, how your life could have panned out differently. Of course, like, you had the family situation wasn't conducive to you being involved in the family business, but most people, if they have, like, a family business, they're like, oh, okay, well, this is an easy career, this is already set up for me, I'm just gonna go into it. But no, you decided to do something totally different,
and very reason for ethical reasons.
Ethical reasons,
I rejected it for ethical reasons.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, to me, like, I see you as morally upright. I see you as, like, so intelligent and, like,
which is
so
ironic, because the audience who sees this video is going to regard me as a complete scumbag. But go.
Okay.
Anyway, go on. Yeah.
Some people, but right. So maybe that's partly why, like, when we have these differences, or, like, when you say something that makes, like, I feel insecure about being stupid compared to you.
Right.
Maybe that's why I'm, like, I'm not thinking of your perspective, and I'm not, like, imagining myself as you in this situation, when I really need to be thinking of your side too. Like, and maybe it's because I have such a high opinion. It's just, it's odd that that is the case, that somebody that I value so much, I can treat like such crap. Anyway, part of what you said when you were telling me about, like, how you're feeling about the situation right now in our relationship, is how when like, maybe for you it's not even necessarily that I'm the jealous type, but it's how I react, it's how I behave when I'm in this jealous rage. You think, how can I be with somebody so stupid? How can I be with somebody who's saying these things when
Yeah.
I don't deserve this? There's no reason for me to put up with this. And you're totally right. There's no excuse for my behavior. And just how the things I say, they are really stupid. Like, genuinely really stupid.
She means basically once she gets angry and just starts screaming things at me to hurt me. Yeah.
Yes, right.
So
Hurtful things
right.
that are just stupid.
To give one example, we are not going to give a lot of examples here, but I mean, I can remember recently you got angry at me and you screamed at the top of your lungs that you didn't care if you never saw me again. You didn't care if you never saw my daughter again. But you don't mean it. I mean, whatever. Once you're sober, I mean, that's a horrifying. I mean, if we recorded that and played back to you, it would be horrifying for you. But I mean, you just get angry and you'll kind of say anything to hurt my feelings once you're upset. And yeah, sometimes you're upset for remarkably trivial reasons when you go into this kind of state. So,
yeah.
Just so that I just give one example so the audience knows.
No, it's so true. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, it's
that's probably one of the worst. Everything I've said is
most of European literature is about people like you psychologically. Most of European literature is addressed to people who struggle with passion versus reason.
Yeah.
And you can see I'm not like that. For me, passion and reason really work together. You know what I mean? Like, I'm passionate about something, so I research it, and I'm like even more rational about things I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Right? Also true of my sex life, really. Sorry, when you think about it. But it's funny, actually, most European literature is about characters like you. And that's always been a bit alien to me. That always seemed a bit artificial. I'm really thinking of novels.
And then you got with me and you're like, oh, it's real.
No, but I think there probably are. I mean, there probably are a lot of people like you. Like where like your ability to think clearly kind of stops as soon as you feel strongly, right? And you see, I'm not like that. Like, I can be really passionate about something and remain really clear and focused and attached, or like,
Yes, and I so admire that. Like, I so admire that. Yeah. Yeah, but no, I mean,
yeah.
What you have said lately is so true, that like stupidity is something that you can change.
Yeah.
If you're not if you're not like horribly disabled or born with half a brain, like
doesn't mean it's easy to change. Go on.
Yes, but it just shows that you say passion and reason.
Right.
I can't seem to like combine them when I'm feeling something. But it is a choice. It's something that I need to work on, and I like the challenge. I do. Like, I want to be challenged, and that's why I like being with you. Like, I agree with you afterwards. Like, I'm like, oh wow, that was stupid, or like I said something stupid and I regret it. And like, it's almost worse too, because part of the reason why I feel jealous of other people is I'm like thinking they might be more intelligent than me, sharper than me, and then when I show myself to not be sharp or not quick-witted, I feel like
you sort of punish yourself.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is just self-loathing too.
Well, and as you say, you don't feel that way about music, even though you're not that good.
No. Like, I love watching good musicians. It's like such a pleasure.
Kind of self-knowledge and detachment about music.
Yeah.
Maybe other things can be like that too.
I think so.
I mean, I
think so. I really do.
But maybe music doesn't involve the same passions to some extent.
Well, I mean, like in your last video, you mentioned like watching more pornography and like to get more comfortable with the idea that like other people enjoy sex too, and it's like everybody does it. Like, well, look, I know not everybody plays music, but like in the same way, like
that's a good point.
In the same way,
this is like, one type of flute we all play,
right? Yeah.
No, but I just say briefly, I do think that's something that for someone like you in your situation might be good advice. Yeah. But maybe for someone else to be terrible advice. So
yeah, of course. I'm not saying
we can take it up in a sequel though. I mean, we'll see. We can see what happens. All right, go on. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sorry. I wish there would have been like more of a clear flow with this video, but I appreciate you talking with me about this, and you know how important it is to be appreciative of the other person, and I appreciate that you take the time out of the day to talk to me about these issues. And but yeah, I mean, I really think that image of somebody working on their garden while their house is on fire, I mean, it can be implied in two different ways in this scenario. So like, I mean, part of the reason why my house is on fire, or especially it was when we first got together, is like I had wasted a lot of time. I had wasted a lot of my mental capacity. Like I really
over
felt
years.
Over years, yeah.
So, we're not saying just that day or something. But yeah, go on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But over when I started university, I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and throughout the next year, 5, 6 years, things just went downhill, and I was wasting my potential. And
after you finished university, in a lot of ways, it only got worse.
Yeah, doing destructive things, to myself and to others around me.
You were not positively motivated.
I was not positively motivated, and I think that in some ways you have to think of your own house, but you have to think of other people's houses. Like, this analogy works in two ways. Like, imagining yourself as the gardener, and also imagining yourself as the neighbor. Imagining yourself walking by your situation, where, looking at yourself from the outsider's perspective and saying, you gotta put out the fire. You gotta figure out what you're doing. So anyway, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to end it there by just saying, like, you need to think about other people, actually genuinely be happy for other people when they succeed, and imagining other beautiful people's lives, or extremely intelligent people's lives, and how that's a struggle. I mean, one thing that you've said is that for you, some people imagine that it must be so easy being intelligent, being the most intelligent person in a room, in a classroom, in a lecture hall. But if you actually think about it, it's pretty awful to be surrounded by stupidity.
It's really awful knowing more than the professor about the topic the professor is giving a lecture on.
Yeah,
it's horrible to sit there and have to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so to put a pithy phrase to it, seeing the sorrow in triumph, and seeing the humanity in tragedy, and so on. Seeing that there are winners and losers, but it's very, very hard to be jealous of the winner when you know the choices and self-sacrifice and effort that went into winning.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
So I can never look at an Olympic athlete and feel jealous of that. And I don't want to be a model and so on either. So, yeah. And as mentioned, it's impossible for me to really feel jealous of people with a PhD and so on and so forth. But yeah, obviously this is something that primarily enters your life in terms of human beauty.
Yeah.
And that's where we have the least choice that we make ourselves. It's to the most extent left up to arbitrary and capricious nature.
Yeah.
Okay, babe, hit that button.